Hey, and welcome to Marketing Guides for Small Business podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about a really important topic, and I'll do an intro for that in a little bit. But one of our guides is held up a little bit. So, Paul Barthel from Changescape Web and myself, Ian Cancel from Outsource Marketing, are just going to chat about some recent things we've encountered related to small business marketing, trends we're seeing, different topics. And then once Ken arrives, which should be shortly, we'll then jump right into the episode about finishing the year strong and setting ourselves up for success in 2024. So, Paul, one of the big things I'm seeing a lot of businesses focusing on lately, especially service-based businesses that have a longer sale, meaning it's not a product that somebody's just going to buy real quick. They're going to have to go through a process of discovery, of connecting with the actual business in order to understand how they can help meet their needs. Not unlike, a business that would reach out to a marketing agency like one of ours. It's a process. It takes time to gain trust, to talk about the specifics of what's needed, and then to help them. But one of the big trends I've been seeing, especially over the past year, but it probably bleeds into last year a little bit, and I think a lot of it has to do with businesses are getting more sophisticated with the understanding that they need to nurture relationships, and they understand that, and hopefully it's because of podcasts like this and good marketers out there that are sharing. You have to understand who your ideal client is. You have to understand that they're on a buying journey, and that you as a business, it behooves you to help them at each stage of their buyer's journey in order to equip them with information that will help them not only make a good decision for their business. Hopefully it's to hire your own business, but it's also to predispose them to position you as the choice that they want to make. And so, what I mean by that is, I'll give you some examples, and then we'll chat a little bit about this. I'd love to get your thoughts and whether you've seen this as well and how you've seen it, Paul. But one of the areas we've seen it a lot is in the financial industry for CPAs, accountants, and other service type professionals. In that, as I was saying, when a prospect comes in, they usually find you through some sort of attraction method, like could be Google Ads, could be SEO, might even be something on social. They find you, they start to digest your content a little bit and understand, first of all, what your business does, whether it meets the needs that they have. They're probably even growing their idea of what their specific need is, because oftentimes businesses have one specific thing or a couple specific things in their mind. But then as they start to be educated, it starts to grow into, wow, I need a larger solution to my problem because my problem's more complex than I thought it was. So once they do that, usually the first step is to book a consultation. Usually it's a free consultation. They fill in a form, they fill in the calendar selection of when they want to meet with you. Boom, it goes off. Most businesses over the years have been just using straight out of the box solutions like Calendly and that kind of stuff. And so, in the very least, at least follow up emails are going out to remind people that that meeting is happening. But it's not really doing anything to nurture the relationship and predispose them to choosing you as a business. And so businesses are getting a little bit more sophisticated in saying, like, hey, how can we build out a nurture sequence in order to help them understand, like, these are the areas that we help businesses with. Position your unique strengths so that, again, you're predisposing them to choosing you. And then just doing that over 3 to 4 emails leading up to the time that you're going to have that first consultation. And then doing the same type of sequence, not the same sequence, but then the same type of nurture sequence after that initial consultation, so that, again, you're just continuing to educate and reinforce the strengths of your business and how you can help. Um, so that's a big trend that I've been seeing over the past year and a half, Paul. I'm actually really excited about that because I've been running outsourced marketing for 8.5 years now. Prior to that, I was in the corporate world, and we used to do this all the time. This was this was kind of our standard MO, that we understood that you have to nurture clients, especially for really long sales. So I'm really pleased to see more and more small businesses start to zone in on that, and that they've got their ear to the ground and they understand that you need to do that. But I'm curious, are you seeing similar trends, or perhaps you're even seeing another trend that is a bit different that you want to share?
Yeah, I think part of it is what you said, and I think part of it is also that when COVID hit, a lot of small businesses realized that they had no choice
Yeah.
because people were going to do things online, and if they didn't, they were just going to be out competed, if you will, if
Yeah.
they didn't actually acknowledge this digital world and realize they had to be a part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Ken's joined us.
Hey,
Welcome, Ken. Good to have you on.
thank you. Yeah,
I know
glad
you're in a satellite location today,
I
so
am.
it's not your normal setup.
True.
So take a breath.
Yeah,
You probably
absolutely.
just ran to your computer to get it set up.
I did.
So Paul and I were just we thought it would be an interesting topic before we jump into our larger topic today about finishing the year strong. And we were wanting to make sure that you were here for that. So we were just talking about some trends we're seeing in marketing with small businesses, and I was sharing about how I've seen a big trend, especially with services, professional services, where they're really trying to nurture the relationship with people from the time they book an appointment and through that process, through nurture sequences at each stage. And now there's even a bigger focus of introducing video within those nurture sequences. So that was just a trend that I was sharing. Paul was talking a little bit about that. How about you? Are you seeing that? And are you also seeing any other kind of big trends that are worth sharing before we jump into the big topic?
In terms of trends, I think that what you said, Ian, is absolutely critical. Unfortunately, most businesses aren't doing it, don't have a clue how to do it, aren't prepared to do it. And so they're really missing the massive boat there. I think right now, I mean, the thing that's blowing me away is just what's become possible over the last year's worth of technology,
Yeah.
whether it's AI, whether it's automation, just smarter, better, easier to integrate, or already pre-built into the solution tool sets that are game changers that a lot of businesses don't, they're not going to know to ask for those. They're going to ask for the
Mhm.
traditional big three: websites, social media, and search engine optimization. They may ask for a paid lead generation strategy too, like Facebook ads or Google ads. You really need to work with somebody who understands deeply what's possible with the tool set and the capabilities that are available today, because you may be asking for certain things. Really, what I'm hearing when you say I need, I need a Google pay-per-click campaign, what you're telling me is you need leads,
Mhm.
and you need sales.
Yeah.
So work with people who do this for a living all the time, who are deeply invested in understanding the trends and the technologies and the capabilities, so that they can guide you to make the best solution choices for your business, driven by
Yeah.
strategy.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Well, do you guys ready to jump into the topic of the day?
Sure. Yeah, my glasses have
Awesome.
changed back to normal color
There
almost.
we go. Yeah. Yeah. I thought you were sporting a new look there for a while.
Yeah, I'm really incognito.
Well, let me do share a bit of an introduction to the topic, and then we'll jump right into the questions with you guys. So, every year at this time, you as a business owner, meaning the people that are our audience that are listening to this, as well as ourselves as business owners, and our marketing teams have an opportunity, and that opportunity is to finish this year strong and set ourselves up for success for the coming year. So, in this episode, we're going to uncover the strategies to not only end the year with a bang, but also to position your business for a triumphant 2024. We'll look at some key tactics to assess your current performance, pivot your strategies for Q4, and leap into the new year. And it's all about forward thinking. So whether you're a small business owner, a seasoned marketer, or just starting out, let's jump into this really great topic that's very strategically focused, that has the power to not only help you finish the year more profitable, but also to make sure you have momentum for the new year. So Ken, why is this time of year such a critical time for businesses, especially in relation to marketing?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer this over a couple of questions that I know you're going to ask me.
Okay.
The first one is really just, as you're wrapping up the year, now is the time that a lot of businesses naturally start to slow down. Other businesses are going to ramp up big time, so it depends on the nature of your business. But if you're in home services, for example, as the weather gets colder, your business might start to tail off a little bit this time of the year. So it gives you an opportunity to step away from being in your business to looking at and working on your business. So you want to look at, what happened over the last year. If you don't know yet what your lifetime value of a customer is, now's the time to figure that out. If you don't know what your average close rate is, and don't be fooled. We hear this a lot from clients. My close rate is 80%. Okay, well, maybe it's 80% from a particular channel, and that channel might be referred, people referred to your business. But what is it in terms of other channels? Don't just lump it all into one big bucket and assume you're closing 80%. To have an 80% close rate, if you're just doing referral marketing plus Google ads, you're doing a hell of a job. I'll flat out tell you that. Because Google ads are not going to convert at that level. So you don't. And
sometimes Ken, people are answering that question at one stage of the nurturing process, like the end stage, right? After you've sent a proposal, they're like, oh, my conversion rate is, even 80% would be high there.
Right.
But you've already trimmed the tree, so to speak, up to that point where the people that aren't going to stay on, aren't even in the books or the numbers. So it's important to be honest about the numbers too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the time to look and reflect, what channels were working well for you. Did you have any customer service issues? Did you have, even answering the phone? I mean, we've talked about this a lot, and I'm really excited to have Jay Baer on our podcast here in a couple of weeks, because he just wrote a new book that talks about time to close, the time that somebody contacts you to the time that you get back to them. We've talked about it before. It's absolutely critical. If you're not getting back to somebody fast and you're not the first one, you don't have nearly the likelihood of closing business. So now's the time to look at all your numbers. If you don't have those numbers, start to think about a plan of what numbers you need to put in place so that you can effectively measure for next year. So you can really start to gauge, return on investment, customer lifetime value, average transaction size, frequency of how many times somebody buys from you throughout the year or over the course of their lifetime, your close rates, all of those things, the total number of leads, what channels they're coming from. This is the time to reflect, analyze, and evaluate the performance of what's happened over the course of the year. Don't wait until the beginning of next year. It's too late.
Yeah. Well, and the year end is just a fantastic milestone, right? As a business to it's what we look forward to when we're building out our goals in the new year or at this time of year for the new year.
Yeah.
So it's just a natural milestone to really leverage. And that leads really well into the question for Paul. Paul, one of the things that large sales organizations that I've observed, but they understand something that not all small businesses do, and that's that they directly connect the individual team members' goals with their higher level business goals. Can you talk a little bit about why this benefits a small business, or how it could benefit a small business, and how it will essentially help them finish the year strong?
Yeah, I don't know if it's they're not aware of it, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I think it's a matter of budget. You know, a small business can only afford to hire so many people. And to your question, I think a lot of it is if the employee or the individual, if it's clear what their job is, what their role is, you know, what they're supposed to be doing, and how what they're doing, their job and their role within the company fits in with the larger, you know, the goals of the company itself, they're gonna be engaged. Their performance is gonna be better. They're gonna be accountable. They're gonna be, you know, motivated. And a large company can afford to hire, you know, 50 different people for 50 different roles. But in a small business, you may have one person doing 15 different things because they just don't have the budget to hire, you know, 15 different people. So
Can I jump in there, Paul?
yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, on the flip side, you know, large businesses also are usually very stringent about cutting staff and lean operations, especially when there's economic uncertainty, whether it's real or perceived. And we're not going to debate whether it's real or perceived because the numbers are all over the map. But, you know, but small businesses, a lot of times they don't address that bloat. You know, they try to hire somebody to be a general purpose person to cover a lot of different skills and capabilities, and that may not be the most cost effective way to go. So I mean, I don't want to steal, you know, your thunder or take you off course, but I think it's an important thing to realize that small businesses need to figure out how to be lean and mean as well.
Yeah, they do. But that also goes back to sometimes you need to outsource things, because a lot of times you'll have like a general office manager, and then the business, oh well, now you're going to be our marketing person, and they know nothing about marketing, you know. And it's not their fault. It's just they were hired to be an office manager, and then the business owner comes along and says, oh, guess what, you're now our marketing person as well. And it can overwhelm people. You're throwing them into a role that they're not trained to do, and sure, they can learn, but if you overwhelm an employee, then it can hurt motivation. But it also, again, if they're not clear on what they're supposed to be doing, then that's going to hurt performance, and it can actually lead to employee turnover. I mean, I don't disagree with what you said, Ken, at all, but I think that as a small business owner, you have to be careful not to overwhelm an employee, and you can't just dump things in your lap. I mean, I've had that happen to me when I was, you know, in my past. It's like, oh, by the way, we want you to do this and this and this, and it's like, yeah, well, that's not what I signed up for, you know. So
This is Paul's subtle way of telling you something, Ken.
I guess, yeah.
No,
Exactly.
not at all, not at all. But
I'm just teasing.
but if you overwhelm an employee, it's
a little too early for Festivus, Paul.
now how do they know, what are they supposed to prioritize? Okay, if their job description and how they fit into the organization, if that's not clear, then they may be sitting there, okay, what do I prioritize and how do I prioritize this? And we've heard a lot in the past, it's nothing new, about the culture of a business. You know, what are your goals? What's your mission statement? What is the culture of your business? And you hear this a lot about, you know, when you're hiring an employee, that it's also important that they fit into the culture of your business. So what's the culture of your business? So I know it's kind of all over the map because it's a very broad question.
Sure. So I'm going to bring it back and really look specifically at how creating a connection between the business goals. So even if it's a small business, the connection between the business goals and the individual objectives, KPIs, goals that we as businesses set for our teams, and how, because I think that concept alone has the power to revolutionize a lot of small businesses. And there's a whole host of reasons why it's really important, right? If people aren't actively contributing to the overall goals of your business, if they're just kind of in their own little silo doing their job, they won't feel engaged. They won't feel like they're contributing to the big picture. And that leads into what you were talking about, Paul, where they don't really know, how they're part of the team. Their satisfaction drops. Ultimately, what you as a small business owner should care most about is that your team is not being effective. Your team is not, a good example is like a rowing team, right? If you can picture those boats with the guys or women, rowing, and if you've watched the Olympics and when people are doing that, the teams that are in synchronicity, when they're all rowing together, sometimes it may not even be the strongest team, right? You might have bigger, stronger teams competing, but if they can't synchronize their efforts all to the same goal, they're not going to win the race. And I know that's an analogy, but I think it's important for us as small business owners to understand that when we can share goals with our teams and really make them accountable for some of those goals, like, contributing goals, that can really put some wind beneath their wings and ultimately help us, finish the year strong, but also perform really well throughout the year.
Yeah.
Ken, this was another observation about big corporations. And it's just because they have really tight goals and they also have really stringent financial checks and balances, right?
Right.
So they're, big corporations almost always have sales contests at the end of the year. They create sales goals at the beginning of the year, and they're probably quarterly and bringing them down to monthly, but they always have an annual goal. And what my observation being in corporate marketing that is part of the continuum of the sales team as well is that, every year there would be some sort of sales contest whereby we'd be trying to motivate the sales teams to reach, not to reach the goal, but to go above the goal, right? Even if we were having a fantastic year and we were surpassing what we originally had put out as our goal for the year, it's about, hey, how can we not only be more profitable this year and thus compensate people even better, right? Because sales professionals are usually compensated based on sales to some degree. But also, how can this give us greater momentum into the new year? So I just wondered if you can talk a little bit about that, how small businesses might be able to leverage that thinking and how they can use that, especially in this quarter as we're getting to the end of the year, but also wanting to start the next year off really strong.
Yeah, no, that I think it's a great opportunity, and to be honest, if you're going to do something before the end of the year as a small business, you need to get all after it right now because you're running out of time fast. So one thing that I think is super easy, we just have implemented a technology that I think is fantastic, and that is the gamification of getting reviews from your key staff. So if you own a restaurant, make it super easy for all of your wait staff or the people who take the money at the cash registers or your delivery people, whoever those people are that have the last experience with a customer, give them an easy way to get reviews. And so, we just have launched a new NFC tap technology. They tap the card to the phone and it automatically, has a unique link for each person. It has a different link on their card. And it takes the user right to going to where they can write a Google review without having to provide an email or a cell phone number so that you can send them a text message after the fact. That alone could be a game changer, and it may not generate revenue immediately for your business, but it probably will. And that's just a simple low-hanging fruit kind of a thing. Now, in terms of sales, I think you need to give, I'm not an accountant or a tax advisor, but if you've had a good year for your business, and you need to buy business stuff, and you sell to other businesses who buy business stuff, give them a reason to make that investment in 2023. Get it on their books for 2023, because it's going to drive their profit down, and therefore it might help them save some money on taxes, pre-purchasing something in 2023 that may run for half of the year or the full year for 2024. Example is buying your 2024 marketing services now in 2023 because you had a good year. Do you want to pay tax on that? Work with your accountants to make intelligent decisions like that, and be positioned and understand if you have something that is worth somebody buying that can be financially advantageous for them. They may not understand the full reasons why, so help educate them and give them a reason to do it. Obviously, we're getting into the Black Friday, the Cyber Monday, the end of the year promotion cycles. You want to take advantage of that. Oh, the other thing too about getting somebody to make a purchase now for 2024 is that it gives you the cash right now, so that you may be able to make some strategic investments moving forward, because you've got capital coming in to do something that maybe you weren't going to be able to do until you got money coming in after the first quarter of 2024. We've talked a lot about opportunity costs and lost opportunity and what that means for your business. Look at it, see if it makes sense for your business. Think about it, because that infusion of cash right now, if you give people a reason to buy now before the end of the year, even if it's at a discounted rate, can have huge payoffs. But you have to think it through, and you have to think about it, financially. Is it a good business decision? And so that's where, again, I think you've got to think about marketing strategy, to make sense, because, marketing is what's going to give your business the cash flow through the sales to run your entire business and its operations. So just think through all of that kind of stuff. Creating a sense of urgency, reaching out to people who raised their hand and said, hey, I'm interested, but they didn't make a purchase, or make an investment, or they did make an investment and they bought something from your business. Get them to come back and buy again. Give them a reason to do that. Now is a great time to do that. Everybody's thinking about buying stuff, but the reality is they're also looking for deals, and so you need to eliminate the risk of them making that buying decision and going with you, whether it's a discount in your offer, whether it's adding extra stuff by bundling extra services for a particular price point, which is my preference. If you can do that instead of discounting, is give extra. But reach back out to folks. Email marketing and text marketing right now, if you have the permission to text, to use them in a text marketing list, it can be really effective. Just realize everybody else is probably going to be doing it too. So if you are going to do it, what's going to make you stand out? Is it your offer? Is it the clever way that you craft your message? Is it the effectiveness of the target audience that you're sending your message to? Because you're not broadcasting to everybody. You're sending a very specific, clear message to a very special targeted audience. You got to think through all of this stuff. And like I said, you need to get going now. The reason the big businesses do all of these things is because they have sales quotas, and if they're publicly traded, they have to meet certain numbers. Small businesses usually aren't publicly traded. They're privately held. So they don't put the financial controls and mechanisms in place to measure this. I think you don't have to go overboard with it, but you need to put some of them in place to drive that activity. The last thing I want to say is, a lot of businesses that are wrapping up their busy time of the year, they're kind of, and I get it. You've been balls to the wall, from, February or March. if you're like in home services, roofing, painting, exterior remodelers, folks, kitchen and bath remodelers, even maybe to that extent, you've been working your butts off. And I know you want to take a break and kind of relax, but I think you're missing an opportunity if you don't talk to your salespeople and give them some incentives to try to close the year strong. I'm in a market that I don't normally live in. I've been here for 5 weeks. I'm seeing some TV ads, and actually one of them is very clever. It's somebody is trying to get people to buy their siding for 2024 now, so that they can get it or over the winter months. So it could be done before the end of the year, but just trying to keep. But so that, because why are they doing it? Because they want to keep their crews. They've paid a lot of money to build up a good team of professionals and contractors to implement, their product set. They don't want to lose them because it's a natural downturn. And so, give people a reason to make a buying decision. I think that's pretty clever. Painters do it by having a painter for a day kind of a program where they can get some people to say, I don't have a big project. It's probably interior. I just need somebody to come in, knock out something pretty quickly. You don't make a lot of money on it, but you're keeping your crew busy and you're keeping them active and engaged. I know there's a natural tendency for certain businesses to kind of relax this time of the year. You're missing opportunity, and you're giving your competitors a lot of the opportunity that you should be having.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Ken. I mean, we've often gotten calls over the years from seasonal contractors, but usually they call us February or March.
That's right.
And they want it sometimes later, and they want to have things in place for April, right, when the weather starts to warm up and they start to get the crews out. And by then, it's really too late. Like, they should be thinking now, what am I going to invest in marketing for the coming year, and how can we start to prepare that and get it in place? Because especially if SEO is part of that strategy, or web development,
they've effectively tied the marketing company or consultants' hands because they've taken away the SEO play. Because if they're contacting you in February or March, they need leads, and they need leads fast. And those, you can get some incremental nice lifts from SEO if you do some smart things with SEO early on. But like you said, it's 6 months to a year oftentimes. And so you've missed that window to build up the rankings of your website or to refresh your website. And you're basically forcing yourself to go with a paid lead strategy, which can be great, but you've eliminated a lot of your options, no doubt. The other thing too, I know, Ian, you work with dentists, and this is a natural time of the year for dentists to reach out to their patients to say, hey, if you have any money left on your insurance plan, come in and get that service now. It's good for the dentist. It's good for the patient. It may not be good for the insurance company, but who cares about them? They have enough money. Now, I shouldn't say that. They've been very kind to me. So thank you.
It's the use it or lose it campaign.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. No, great points. Great points. Paul, the best way to chart your course is to also know where you've been. So what's worked, what hasn't worked, etc. How can a small business assess their marketing performance for the current year that we're in?
Well, obviously, first thing you have to review your KPIs and how that matches up against what your goals were, assuming that you set goals, and that you have a marketing strategy. And I'm not being sarcastic. A lot of small businesses, we've talked about this in the past, they don't have a marketing strategy, and they don't want to pay for it. And I'll caveat this a little bit and we've talked about this before too, that the last couple of years, especially for like home service providers, it's kind of been an outlier. So you need to keep that in mind when you're looking back, that that they'd be like, well, last year my sales and leads for this year are down from last year. It's like, well, last year everyone was stuck at home, and they're looking around saying, oh, well, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that. And Ian, I think it was last week, we were talking about this a little bit offline, that I had a friend that spent about $50,000 on fiber cement siding because it's something they've been wanting to do for a while and they just never did it. And again, they were stuck at home, so they're like, we can't go out, we're not spending money on anything else, so let's go ahead and get this done. And I was talking to him and I said, yeah, that's a lot of money. He said, yeah, that's why we're not spending any money on home improvements for the next 2 or 3 years unless something, like a pipe breaks. And if we don't have to spend the money, we're not going to. And I think home service types of businesses need to keep that in mind when they're, looking at their KPIs. So, because these last couple of years have been kind of weird with COVID. Conduct a threat analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and where you're weak, how can you improve. And a lot of times this goes back to, I think it was Ken was talking about the fact that if your speed of response is important, and this is where marketing and automation can help you, even though they know it's not a real person, but just the fact, like the missed call text back that we've talked about, just the fact that you're making an effort to immediately get back to them saying, hey, we're sorry we missed your call, we'll follow up. Just the fact that you do that can make a big difference. And within that text, that missed call text back, you can send them a link to a booking calendar where they can book an appointment. Brilliant. And this is something a lot of small businesses don't do. And that goes to the opportunities. If you don't have something like that in place, that's an opportunity. And then threats, to me, that comes back to your competition. What is your competition doing? Are they eating your lunch? And, if going back to what Ken said about SEO and paid ads, some of the things Google is doing with paid ads is really screwing over small businesses. And the reality is the average click-through rate on paid ads, and it varies by industry. Some industries have higher click-through rates, obviously. It's like 4 or 5%. And that's just people clicking. That doesn't mean they're going to convert because they know it's an ad. I mean, and if you're not spending a significant amount of money, and I mean, like, if you're only spending $400 or $500 a month, and this goes back to, it depends on what the cost per click is, depends on a lot of things, but you may not get any results. Now, we have a client out in the Las Vegas area that he spends a lot of money on paid ads and he gets really good results. And he'll call me every once in a while, hey, we need to cut the budget back because I can't keep up with this. That's a good problem to have. But he's spending about $5,000 a month on ad spend. Okay. So that's a lot of money that a lot of small businesses can't afford to pay, but just keep in mind that that's something to consider. If you have a very limited budget, then your effectiveness from a paid strategy is also going to be limited. But get feedback from customers and from your employees that deal with customers, because they're going to get this feedback, and there may be some training involved here, but they're going to get feedback from customers whether they realize that or not. So a lot of times, talk to your employees that are dealing with customers, and are there complaints? This goes back to your SWOT analysis. Are there complaints? Are there weaknesses? Are there things that you can improve on? I talked about the competitors and in the threats. What are your competitors doing? And talk to your financial people, your accountants, and what's your ROI on these things. But in order to really gauge return on investment, you kind of have to have a strategy and you have to have goals. And what are you trying to accomplish? A lot of times we talk about conversions, tracking conversions. Well, what's a conversion? A conversion can be anything. If you want people to sign up for a newsletter, that may or may not lead to a sale, but if that's your goal, is to get people to sign up for your newsletter, well, then that's a conversion. may not be a sale, but if that's one of your goals, then that's a conversion. So what is a conversion to you? So hope that makes sense.
Those are good points.
Can I jump in and talk a little bit about competition?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just came across. I was talking with my Yelp folks that we work with, and Yelp just did a study that indicates that new business openings are dramatically up from 2022, which isn't probably too surprising, but they're way up even from pre-COVID numbers. So your competition has exploded, whether you realize it or not. And it's in every category. I mean, hotels or travel, home services, auto repair, detailing, event services, and local services like chiropractors, dentists, and other folks like that. You're seeing an explosion. I mean, we're talking about 25 to 40% new businesses that have been opened and launched in 2023 in those categories. So if you're not planning for having a lot of competitors, you're going to get your butt kicked if you're not careful, because it's exploding, and you're seeing it in Google ad costs and search ranking efforts across the board. So you need to be prepared to make those investments in marketing.
Yeah. And if you're a business that's mature and you've been there for a while, I see this all the time with mature businesses that hire us, that oftentimes they've gotten pretty lackadaisical about some of their marketing. And so, going back to monitoring and knowing what your metrics are, if you want to know what your direct correlation between marketing investment is and what your results are, it takes work. It's going to cost some extra with your marketing agency, but it's well worth it, because your marketing agency is going to be able to attribute, this is the number of sales or conversions that you've received through this medium. And that can be extremely powerful as a business.
Yeah.
So Ken, we love to talk about strategy. In fact, Paul was just kind of leading us down that path with how he finished up his response to this.
I don't want to step on anybody's toes there.
What's that?
I don't want to step on anybody's toes there.
You did a good job. You just missed his toes.
Ouch.
But can you share a bit about why having a strategic plan is so critical to starting next year off at full throttle for a small business?
Yeah. I mean, so one, if you don't know who your competitors are and how many there are and the explosion of competitors that you now have, how are you going to create a competitive advantage? Like you talked about complacency, just because you've been getting a lot of the business that you've wanted for a long time doesn't mean it's going to continue to happen, because there are a lot of people who are launching businesses who are really hungry, and they're going to be doing a lot of stuff to take away your market share. So, kind of to just kind of put a bow on that. I don't know who said this. You might know, Ian, but if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I mean, that's just kind of a nice little thing to keep in the back of your mind. You might get lucky. I don't know that you want to build your business and your lifestyle on luck.
Everybody thinks they're going to get lucky, though, and they don't.
I know. And you look at the small business failure rates, so you can have the best intentions and the best plans laid out, and there still are going to be factors that are outside of your control that are going to get you, like COVID. I mean, there's no doubt, but I want to try to own and control as much of my destiny as I can. And I hope a lot of other small businesses are like that as well. So I think you need to have a clear direction. You need to have clear messaging. Don't get distracted by the shiny object syndrome. Just because you can doesn't mean you shouldn't. And, I mean, I'm as guilty of this as anybody, and Paul knows this. I love understanding stuff. I love playing with tools. I love figuring out stuff. I like to see how, if you plug this in with this, how's it going to, work or fight against the success of what you've been doing before. Allow yourself room to tinker and experiment. not tinkle, tinker.
I was
but,
straight
but,
face on that.
But don't dilute, don't dilute your main value proposition. I think a lot of businesses, it's like 80% of your sales is probably coming from that one core product that people know, love, and trust you about. And you're trying to make all your marketing investments around all of these other peripheral or somewhat related products or services that your customers don't know who you are. Well, your acquisition costs are so much more expensive, and you're probably giving up market share on the 80% of the thing that everybody knows about and why people have been doing business with you for a long time anyway. So don't go crazy with it. Incrementally add more products for sure, and solutions and services, but don't try to chase 50 different directions all at once. That's just a recipe for marketing frustration. It really is, because you're diluting your marketing budget to the point where it can't effectively do anything for you other than provide general coverage. And general coverage is probably not what you're looking for. So, which comes down to resource allocation. The more you have, the more you're trying to figure out how can I allocate resources to generate leads for this product or service versus this product or service. Whether it's advertising costs, whether it's a marketing staff or internal staff or outsourced marketing that you're paying for, tool sets. If you haven't done it yet, get a sales and marketing operating system in place, whatever that might be. It could be a CRM. It could be an operational system that helps you do a better job of executing, on your projects, or a patient management system. But don't be fooled that those are real marketing and sales engines, because they're probably more operational focused. 2023 and 2024, what's left of 23, is the absolute best time to put a sales and marketing operating system in place for your business. And I love the word system, because system, in my mind, it bakes in strategy and repeatability. I come from the world of software development, where we built software for, people, where if our software fails, people die. Because we're talking about airplanes and mission support and logistics and things like that. So systems are critically important, and they're only going to be successful if you have a strategy that you put in to launch your system. And so repeatability, managed, KPIs and managed processes, optimized processes, to the point where you can dial in your efforts to achieve something greater than, again, I'm going to use the term force multiplier or amplification, that you wouldn't get if you're just doing a one-off tactic here or there. So if it's like I'm running Google ads this month, next month, I think I'm going to try Facebook ads. The following month, maybe I'm just going to go back to referral marketing and let my networking group give me leads. And you're not giving anything enough time to pan out and effectively measure and optimize the performance of those. Second of all, you're missing a lot. You're spending a lot of wasted money because you're doing startup cost loss. So if you're switching from one tactic to the next, so you need to have a plan. You need to think about it. You need to have it goal driven. You need to think, how much revenue do I want to increase? What's my profit margin? How can I be more profitable? How many leads do I need to get there? What are my lead channels that I want to invest in? What are all of these, what tool sets do I need to have so that I can make all of this run and measure and optimize? You got to do that. I don't know. I mean, I could go on. There's a lot of different things. But, at the end of the day, we live in an omni-channel world. If you're relying on one tactic, good for you. You better hope that whoever is providing that solution doesn't radically change what they're doing. Like right now, Google just rocked the world of businesses that rely on local services ads. They've changed the way, they shuffled the deck on how they display the ads. And so if that was your one way that you were getting leads, maybe you got lucky and you weren't impacted, but a lot of businesses have been impacted. So and that's the only channel that they have to get business, other than maybe the referral marketing, which I think most businesses probably have some level of, of business coming from that. So, don't expose yourself and leave your flank open because you don't own and control these tools. What you can own and control largely is SEO, and the investment in your website and the things that you do to build your reputation. But if you're relying on other channels and other medium that you don't control, you could be blindsided at any point in time. And even with SEO, occasionally you're going to get a little bit blindsided, even if you're doing all of the right things, by algorithm changes that just kind of reshuffle the deck and catch good actors, and drop them down because it's trying to address problems that bad actors have been doing. That usually will reconcile itself pretty quickly. But, again, if you're a one-trick pony and you've made all your investment in SEO and you have no paid lead generation strategy, you could be caught off guard by that for a couple of months. And it may be, unfortunately, your busy time of the year. So you have contingencies in place, be able to hot swap. But all of that is only going to be done if you're giving forethought, planning, and goal setting to what you're doing in marketing.
Love it, Ken. Great points. What's interesting too, this is just an observation, businesses that have often gone to the local service ads, so just because there was so much buzz about it, especially with contractors, I found that a lot of them, even some people that we were working with, they lost focus on strategy, because for a little while it really was like a gold rush, where if you were first there and none of your other competitors were there, it was a whole other layer, and it's the top layer that people see when they go to Google searches, right? So
yeah.
But we found, going back to your comment about competition, the thing is you're just paying your way for the short term, and as soon as competition comes, the costs go up, the chance for you being seen go down. It's not a long-term strategy. It's just one tactic that can be, an arrow in your quiver. Is that the right?
Whatever. Yeah. Well, it's an expense as opposed to an investment,
Right.
And if you're not putting money in your marketing as an investment, whenever those expenses that you're using and taking advantage of, and you're going to have some expenses. Most businesses should have expenses when it comes to marketing, like paid advertising. But when those things change up or competition levels ramp up, you don't have anything else to fall back on. If you haven't been making investments also in your marketing through, reputation, through search engine optimization, through social proof, all of those different kinds of things.
Yeah. The only way to assure that you're going to win the horse race is to have all of the horses in the race, right? Like that.
Right.
And as a business, why wouldn't you? Don't focus on the lame horses, but focus on the ones that are worth running with.
Right. And so that's a great point. So you can, we used to call it the trifecta. It has expanded a little bit beyond that, but if you can be in the local services ads, and you can be in the Google search ads, and you can be on the map 3-pack, and you can show up high on the first page of the organic listings, which I guess is more than a trifecta. It's a four-headed beast or whatever it might be now. Now you have an opportunity to potentially dominate your market, and you're eliminating your competition's ability to do that, because you're taking up valuable spaces in those 4 critical properties, that people are going to be doing when they're doing searches to find businesses that they want to hire for products, services, or solutions.
Yep. Paul, I think this goes really well. The points that Ken was raising about strategy and creating a strategic marketing plan. One of the things that can happen is if businesses have created a marketing plan, they might have invested it in the past, But if they've taken their eyes off of that, this is a living document, that it has to continually evolve with the world around us and our business. How can a small business make sure they're updating this marketing plan on an ongoing basis and for the upcoming year?
Yeah, kind of goes back to the previous question you asked me is, first of all, do you actually have a marketing plan, or do you just think you have a marketing plan and you really don't? But look at, again, look at what worked last year, the year before, and what didn't, and what Ken said about competition, it's getting more and more competitive. And we've talked about this in the past about the whole digital marketing world, that when COVID hit and people realized that they had to be, you had a lot of small businesses that really didn't have much of a digital presence. And then COVID hit and they realized that they actually had to do something. And a lot of them were in a position where their competition had already been doing something, and now they had an almost insurmountable hurdle ahead of them. But make sure you have goals and objectives. What are your goals and objectives? Is it, assuming it's a business growth, how much do you want to grow your business, and are you willing to make the investment that's going to take? A lot of times your business, well, I want to double my business and I have $1,000 a month to spend. Well, good luck. Okay. Probably not going to happen.
Unless you're really, really small.
Well, yeah. You know what they say, percentages lie. But, and it goes back to, make sure you have the budget, or you're willing to spend the budget, or realign or revise your goals and objectives. And if you're a seasonal business, or if you have seasonality within your business, some businesses do, some businesses don't. I think all do to a certain degree, but plan for that. If you're a siding contractor, you're probably not going to be that busy in the winter unless you're down south. If you're up in Michigan, you're probably not going to be doing a lot of exterior. Even if you're a painter, you're probably not going to be doing a lot of exterior painting in the winter, So plan for those things. And do you plan on launching any new products or services? Let's say, or maybe you have something that you want to put more focus on. Let's say you're a remodeler and you want to do more kitchen remodels. Well, have a plan for that. It all goes back to strategy. It really does.
And Ken, I know we're at the top of the hour.
Yeah.
Is there, just as kind of a way to close out, are there any trends that you've seen? I know we talked a little bit about this at the beginning, but is there anything additional that you wanted to share before we sign off today?
Yeah, I think, again, I'm going to stress omni-channel, because the world is more competitive than it has ever been. And you're starting to see that in pricing for paid ads. You're seeing more people launching digital marketing presences and campaigns. And so the best way to combat that is to really look at omni-channel. When I say omni-channel, I mean, we're talking reputation, we're talking social, multiple social channels. We're talking SEO, we're talking your website, we're talking about business listings, on and on and on, a whole variety of paid ad strategies, including offline, can be really effective. And then I just can't stress this enough. I think the importance of video marketing, you talked about it at the top of the show, Ian, incorporating video, even in your sales funnel and your nurture campaigns. You don't have to hire expensive videographers. Occasionally you should, and based on the nature of your business, maybe it's more frequently, or most of the time, maybe you should. But for a lot of small businesses, you really don't. There are fantastic tools that are available to people who know how to use and manipulate them. We do a lot of video marketing. We don't shoot a single frame of video. But that doesn't mean we can't create a bunch of kick-ass videos for our clients, because there are lots of different types of videos that are out there. So I think video marketing is huge. Um, and just pay attention to what's being possible with the technologies that are there. Marketing automation and getting a sales and marketing operating system in place for your business so that you can systematize your marketing, uh, so that that becomes your effective implementation of your strategy. That's got to be your number one goal. If you do that, your competitors look, if you've got 33% brand new businesses that are launching, they're not systematizing a marketing strategy to optimize the output of the results. They're just not doing it. You need to do it. They're not going to do it. You're going to win.
Yep. Yep. Just like if you're thinking from a military standpoint, you don't go into a campaign without a plan, right?
Yep.
And of course, the plan has to be fluid because life happens around you.
Yep.
So
you brought it up, situational awareness. You got to know what's going on everywhere on the battlefield if you're going to expect to dominate and control that battlefield. And the battlefield in this case is, are you getting the business or is it going to somebody else? And if you don't have that situational awareness, you need to get the tool set and you need to get the right team in place to make that happen. That's the best way to control your destiny when it comes to marketing and growing your business and growing a profitable business.
Yeah. Well, as it was said,
no mission plan has ever survived engagement with the enemy.
What's that?
I said, no mission plan has ever survived engagement with the enemy.
And when Ken said destiny, it made me think of Back to the Future and you are my density. So this is a good place to wrap up, guys. Thank you, Ken and Paul, for sharing your insights on this important topic. And thank you to our audience for joining us today. Please share this with others so that they can benefit from it as well. And until next week, folks, keep calm and mark it on.